And we back, episode 12 of Hoop Fans. I'm K Rose, your host here with my co-host. What's up, bro?
What's up, guys? This is Matt. We are back.
Yes, sir. We are back, man. And listen, man, we jumping right into it. We're not going to even delay. It's the NBA playoffs going on right now as we speak. Not literally right now, but these last few weeks has been started up.
hmm
Currently, obviously, in the conference finals with in the Eastern Conference, we have the Knicks versus the Cavs. And in the Western Conference, we have the Spurs versus the Thunder. So for this particular episode, we're going to be covering the New York Knicks, their relentless march towards the championship. Wemby versus SGA, that war that's going on out west. We're going to be breaking down massive All NBA snubs because as of this recording, the All NBA teams did come out either today or yesterday. So we're going to speak a little bit about on that, and we're gonna have a good episode, man. I'm excited. So let's get right to it, bro. Let's start with the Eastern Conference, man. Eastern
Do it,
Conference
bro.
Finals, because that's where we are. Knicks, Cavs. Um, the New York Knicks, as of this recording, lead the Cleveland Cavaliers 3-0. And as of this recording, they will be playing game four tonight.
hmm
Which by the time this episode comes out, we very well might be saying that the New York Knicks have swept the Cleveland Cavaliers. Talk to me, bro. What has been your early observations of this series?
I think just early observations, bro. There's a lot to be desired, out of the competition between the two. I think it's been very one-sided. With the Cavs and Knicks, the Cavs had a real opportunity to seize game one. Obviously, we saw how that went, man. Just dropped the ball completely and just epic meltdown. And I think they're kind of suffering from that. They haven't been able to recover since. Like you said, Knicks are up 3-0 and it's not really close at this point. Like the margin of victory, I feel like is so comfortable for the Knicks now, and it's just like, they're bullying the Cavs a little bit more. They're getting to their spots. I think they're definitely exploiting the holes in the defense a lot. Um, and they're really, really showing James Harden's age, bro. That's a glaring thing with me. I'm definitely seeing now, like, you can't hide age, especially when you're getting starter minutes like James is getting. Um, but I just think it's also good for basketball in a way, though, with like the Knicks kind of march into the finals here, right? Like it's been 27 years since they've, um, you know, smelled a championship run like
Yeah,
this. So I mean, it's cool. I am pretty happy for the Knicks that they're experiencing some success. I would like it to be a little bit more close, just in terms of the series a little bit more, but yeah, man, I just think that the Cavs they have a lot left to be desired from Hoop fans, man.
I agree. So we touched on a lot of points, bro. So bro, you touched on a lot of different topics. So obviously, the general statement we can make is the series with a 3-0 count. It can appear to me very disappointing, and it is because obviously when we're this deep in the playoffs with only four teams left, you want
hmm
competitive series because we want to
Exactly.
we want to feel like we're watching the top four teams in NBA basketball. And I don't know if we quite feel that way with the Cleveland Cavaliers down 0-3 to the New York Knicks. Now, biggest thing for me that you touched on was game one because as hoop fans, we understand that momentum in the playoffs is such a big deal, right? It's a huge deal.
hmm
And for them to blow a 22-point lead in game one with only 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you need that win as an underdog, right? Going into the series, everyone understood that despite, I believe the Knicks were the third seed, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe
Yeah.
the Cavaliers were the fourth seed, despite
Yep.
there only being a one slot difference in seeding, I felt like the Cleveland Cavaliers were a pretty big underdog against the New York Knicks. So to be up 22 points with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you have to win the game. You have to close that game out. And I could not believe the meltdown that we witnessed, right? And a lot of that was due to coaching.
hmm
Kenny Atkinson allowed James Harden, which has been a pretty much a staple in this series, even outside of game one. They allowed the New York Knicks to target James Harden, right? Primarily allowing James Harden to guard Jalen Brunson one on one, where Jalen Brunson went on a heater. He scored, I believe, like 5, 6 straight possessions. And then also when they would call for the pick and roll, let's say with Jalen Brunson and OG and Anunoby, if they switched off or they didn't switch off or if they blitzed the screen, a lot of times Jalen Brunson was swinging the ball to OG and Anunoby, and in game one he was attacking the basket, getting all the way to the rim because of a lack of help. Right. I say all
Hmm.
that to say this: they needed that game one, and I think when they lost
Bad.
that game one in the manner that they lost it, it's almost like I felt like, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I actually disagree with how much it psychologically played on them, right? Because
Hmm.
I feel like they've actually played the Knicks pretty competitive for the most part outside of game one, right? Like they've given up big runs, but for the most part, they've showed a little bit more fight than I expected them to. I just think that to ask a team to basically win game one because you were up, you basically had the game one, and to still not get that in the win column is just asking a lot. And then obviously over time, usually in NBA playoffs, the better team is going to win for the most part, right? The better team is
Right.
going to over time impose their will, and that's what's happened with the New York Knicks. Um, I think you had a great segue to James Harden. Speak more to his play because I kind of want to dig into his play in this series, his play in these playoffs. How well can we evaluate the trade between James Harden and Darius Garland? And what is this series? Does it do anything to his legacy? So speak to me a little bit about what you've seen from James Harden and what this means for him as a player.
I think that it just naturally, bro, with like the progression of getting older, James Harden, I believe he's like 36, 37, somewhere in there. He has no doubt lost a step, right? So with a game like his is predicated on being loose, crafty with the ball, kind of being able to shift defenders, get that step to get in the lane, whatever you're gonna do, finish at the rim, floater, step backs, getting basically just getting some leverage with his craftiness, with his ball handling ability and his size. And I just feel like he's not able to break free off defenders as easily anymore. His shot, his shot from distance also is suffering a bit. Um, so I really just think it's age. I think that I mean, with the Detroit series, there was obviously he had to deal with defenders being thrown at him. Asar being an all-world defender, Cade getting on him at some points, being able to D him up a little bit. So he's getting big bodies thrown at him, especially the last two playoff series. But I think it's a combination of him just getting older, not being able to separate himself, and as far as his legacy, bro, I don't think this series really does anything for his legacy, good or bad. I think last series, if he wasn't able to get that game seven victory, then we'd be looking at him being like, all right, we clearly can't put this guy at the third greatest shooting guard ever. Um, yeah, man, I think that this series obviously it's gonna suck that he's never made it to a championship run as a number one, number two option. Um, but I just also think that a lot of his shortcomings this series are just due to him not being able to get there because of age. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. I mean, obviously, I agree with you, bro. I believe James Harden, correct me if I'm wrong, he's 36 years old, correct?
I think so, yeah.
So for him to be 36, obviously, stars are playing at older ages these days in this era, right? So guys are having elongated careers. They're playing for more
Hmm.
seasons. Um, for me, as a hoop fan and as a decent fan of James Harden, right? Not one of my favorite players, but I don't have anything against him like a lot of the hoop fans or hoop world seem to have, right?
Hmm.
Like there seems to be a very big population of fans of the game that are not fans of James Harden. Some of that is due to what they would probably describe as the flopping. Some older traditional fans do not necessarily like that he's a huge pioneer of taking extra steps or manipulating the gather step or, step back. So he has a lot of detractors that are quick to point out whenever he fails. And unfortunately, we've seen this too many times in James Harden's career where he just does not perform in the big moments,
Hmm.
right? Too often, it's almost as if it's a guarantee that if it's a big moment or a big game, James Harden does not play his best. And not even does he not play his best, he sometimes plays his worst in
Yeah.
those moments, right? So for me, as a decent fan of his, I'm a little sad, right? Because I feel like as fans, we are what have you done for me lately? And what this series is kind of showing me is this could potentially be his last chance to really have an impactful contribution to a highly competitive team.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that is this series sometimes appears to me that we may not see James Harden in this position again. We may not see him as a starting guard, all-star caliber guard playing deep in the playoffs after this season,
Hmm.
right? There's going to be a lot more East Coast teams who are coming back as far as like the Pacers. We have Washington, who may be a new type of team in the East. Atlanta is on a run in terms of having some momentum building. We may not see James Harden in this position again, and for him to go out in this manner, it's going to be a lasting impact in people's memory, right? I
Hmm.
don't believe it should impact his overall legacy because he's 36. So this should all be gravy. But because he has not won a championship and because of his lackluster playoff performances in the past, you would hope that he would have been able to add something positive to his resume with this run.
Hmm.
And I think we should definitely commend him for being in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think that the trade that was made for between the Cavaliers and the Clippers, James Harden for Darius Garland, I feel
Hmm.
like the Cavs won the trade at this juncture. Right, he's
Hmm.
playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, so I don't think it was a
Yeah.
failed trade. They went all in to try to make a run this season, and they're in the Eastern Conference Finals. So he's accomplished that. I just think it's pretty sad that it's probably going to end in probably a sweep tonight. I feel for James Harden in that way.
I just hope they can win. You know what I mean? Game four. I hope we're not going on a sweep like that because as journalists, as orators of the game that we are, it's when and I credit you, bro, because Kyle, you're a great forward thinker in terms of like the game, and how this will go from here on out. And it's something to think about for sure when you're talking about a Hall of Fame guard like James Harden saying this could be his last potential uh, run as a starting guard, borderline all-star, making an impact. Like that's something to think about. Like we might not see him again in this position because, like you said, the great East teams are coming back. Um, so that's a great point, bro. That's a great
Honestly,
point.
bro,
Definitely made me think about it for sure.
it made me want to root for the Cavaliers in these
Yeah.
playoffs and in this series particularly because I'm like, I want James Harden to have something, right? Like I didn't believe that the Cavaliers were good enough to win the championship, right?
Hmm.
I did think they could potentially steal this series from the Knicks because they had been playing. They played two back-to-back 7-game series, right? So they
Right.
never really got a break. So that game one was so crucial to me because it's like you guys are already in rhythm. You may be tired, but you guys haven't stopped playing basketball. The Knicks, I believe, had a nine game
Something
uh
crazy.
a nine
Yeah.
game break. So if there was any hope for you to win this series and kind of get a jump on the Knicks, it was game one. So I really was rooting for James Harden to come through, and unfortunately, it hasn't happened. And for me, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't want them to win tonight. For what? I don't think. And
Right.
here's here's
It's
my
just
here's
like
here's
that's
my
a
hot
good
take, bro.
point.
Yeah, here's my hot take, bro. When teams are down 0-3,
It's nothing's been done before like that. Like you can't.
obviously there has never been a 0-3 comeback in the history of the NBA. We know that. But hot take, I don't think any of the players who were in that situation, they want to win game 4.
That's
Because
a fact. Yeah.
a lot of times the team that's down 0-3 outside of the Boston Celtics a few years ago when I believe they were down 0-3 to the Miami Heat, the Jimmy Butler
Hmm.
Heat, and they actually made it all the way
I
to
think you're
game
right.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they made it all the way to game 7 and Jason Tatum hurt his ankle and they lost game 7. They were about to be the first team to actually, in my opinion, make
I
history
forgot
and
about
come
that.
back. But most times, my point is, most times the team that is down 0-3 is the team that's the lower seed, so they don't have home court advantage.
Hmm.
So to me, I believe most players don't want to win game 4 because why would you want to win game 4, have to travel all the way back to your opponent's stadium or arena for game 5 and then lose there? Then
Right.
have to travel. No one wants to get on that flight to do that. You know you're going to lose. Right. So a lot of
That's a good
times I feel
point.
like like my Lakers, for example. I'm a big Laker fan. Hoop fans who follow the podcast know this. We were down 0-3 to the Thunder.
Hmm.
I knew this. I knew LeBron was going to make it look good. He was going to make it look like we're competitive in game 4. We were going to fight hard. But I know they didn't want to win that game. And I know
Hmm.
they was going to make plays to make sure they lost that game. I'm going to say it. Because they don't want to go back to Oklahoma City. No one wants to do that.
That's a good
So
point.
I think if we're doing predictions, bro, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers, I believe they will lose game 4 tonight as of this recording. And the New York Knicks will advance to the finals. Last couple of things on this Eastern Conference series, bro, or a couple more things actually. Talk to me before we get to the Knicks. Talk to me about Evan Mobley. What is your thoughts about his playoff run and his particular play in this series, Evan Mobley?
I think I've seen more than enough like individual performances this playoffs to be confident that he definitely has the mentality to be able to create offensively for himself, to kind of take matters into his own hands in different ways. So I'll be honest with you, bro. I didn't realize that Evan Mobley had a clip like that from, I mean, a decent efficiency. And he's shooting enough volume threes for I'm like, he could definitely be a stretch 4, stretch 5, and shoot outside, bring the bigger guys out there. I still would love him to demand the ball a little bit more on the block. I think he can definitely average around like 20, 22 a game. But I just think he's gotta be a little bit more demonstrative in his approach for demanding the ball. I think he's way too
He
laxed a lot of the
defers. He
time.
defers,
Yes.
and I think he defers, in my opinion, uh, because of a lack of a go-to move, right? I still
Hmm.
don't feel like Evan Mobley has an offensive game, right? He has offensive skills and he can make offensive plays, but he doesn't have a set offensive game. So every time he catches the basketball, a lot of times I don't feel that he knows exactly what he wants to do with it.
Right.
I know if he's open, as you stated in these playoffs, he's shooting 34% from three.
Hmm.
He's averaging 17 points a game, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 34% from three. So if he's open, I am surprised and happy that he's actually a lot more willing to shoot the open three, right? And he's with that percentage, he's not great, but he's capable, right?
Hmm.
That opens up his game a lot. I agree with you. But I also feel that for the most part, when he catches the basketball, he wants to drive to the basket. My only thing with him is when he drives to the basket, he takes the contact and it's really no set plan on what he wants to do after that, right? He doesn't have a turnaround off either shoulder.
Right.
He doesn't really have a go-to spin move, not really a go-to crossover. He's still very, very raw offensively. So I believe that if Evan Mobley, he's played well for his standards in these playoffs. But if Evan Mobley was where he should be developmentally as a guy that's an all-star defensive player of the year, if he was where he was supposed to be offensively, they would be better than the Knicks. If he was there for
For sure.
sure, if he was there for sure, first or second option on offense, best player on offense, they would be able to beat the Knicks. But because he's not there, you're leaving it in the hands of Donovan Mitchell, who has been inconsistent, or James Harden. And I think Evan Mobley, I think the key to his game, I agree, he's going to have to become a super above average 3 point percentage shooter, right? I think that has to be where he goes so that, it opens up some things for him when he drives to the basket. He can start attacking closeouts more.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, bro. Donovan Mitchell, I just believe he's been inconsistent for some reason. He doesn't seem to be as athletic that he as he normally is when he plays. But he's a shot maker and he's a to me a streaky shooter, right? He's a streaky scorer. So you can kind of tell where he's at when the game starts, right? If he hits a couple early, Donovan Mitchell has the potential to go off. If
Hmm.
he's cold, a lot of times it's like it can be hit or miss with D Mitch. So great, good for the Knicks. We didn't really talk too much about them. Is there anything you want to speak to about the Knicks before we change subjects?
Yeah, I was just surprised at how much production they're getting out of like Mikal Bridges. I always thought, it was Cat or well Brunson, Cat, and then like OG, and OG's like holding it down. But I'm just very surprised that the production they're getting from Mikal Bridges. He's definitely stepping up, man. He's pound for pound been their third best performer, I would say, like this whole entire playoff run. But I mean, I think Cat is struggling a little bit. I kind of just looked up his stats. He's only got 44 points this series. And we're only going into 4 games, but I think they're gonna need way more out of them out of him specifically. If they're gonna give
Win the whole thing.
OKC or San Antonio a push, because there is no way in hell that the Knicks are going to be even capable of performing at a high level and a high chance at beating either of those two teams in the West without Cap like producing at least like 18 and 11, 18 and 12.
Bro, I first of all, I listen, I'm in total agreement. Mikal Bridges has been balling.
Yeah,
Balling, balling, balling. So when I'm looking at his stats, right, he's averaging he is averaging dang, where the bro, Mikal Bridges averaging 16.8 points on 68% shooting
oh my.
and 45% from three these last
Oh,
10 games, bro. He's shooting 68% from the field as a 6'6 wing, 45% from three these last 10 games. He has been balling. And
damn.
Mikal Bridges, a lot of times when you talk about the if you have an argument against the New York Knicks, the first thing a lot of people point to is Mikal Bridges, right? Because he was
Hmm.
traded for 4 or 5 first round picks, right? They gave up a massive haul to acquire Mikal Bridges. So whenever the Knicks are having uh downsides or they go through their slumps, fans are quick to point out what they could have acquired instead of Mikal Bridges with that massive haul, right? So a lot of times as a player, he's the first one they go to describe why this Knicks team is not good enough. So, and he was struggling a bit in the Atlanta Hawks series to start this playoff run. So for him to go on a heater and kind of, he's hitting everything, bro. He's hitting everything, mid
Everything.
ranges, threes. He's getting to the basket. He's defending well. He's just playing with a ton of confidence. I really like Mikal Bridges' game. So
Hmm.
he's been a big factor, a key factor. And I agree with you. He stepped in place of OG Anunoby, who's been hurt a little bit, banged up these playoffs. I agree with you, but I also feel like a big part of this Knicks resurgence or why they're playing so well this playoff run is they've made Cat more of a facilitator. Right?
Yeah.
He's kind of playing the Nikola Jokic role where he catches it in the slot at the top of the key or at the elbow, and he's kind of directing traffic. He's making moves. He he never really played that role before. And I think it has helped unlock a lot of the Knicks offense, right? Where he's okay with getting off the ball and kind of, making the play for someone.
Hmm.
This Knicks team is really good. And I believe whoever comes out of the Western Conference, Spurs or the Thunder, I think they're going to give them a series. In my opinion, I believe they would lose to the Spurs if the Spurs were to advance. I do think the Spurs would be better than them. But if the Thunder were to advance, with the injuries that they currently have to a few of their key guys, I think the Knicks will be able to beat the Thunder. Um,
Wow, bro.
yeah, I because I mean with the
Damn.
Thunder, let's just transition right over to the Western Conference
Let's do it.
because we pretty much know the Knicks are going to be in the finals. The Thunder are missing their second best player, in my opinion, Jalen Williams. Right, he's been dealing with hamstring issues, and then they also have recently. It's been announced that AJ Mitchell
Yeah.
will be out game 4 with a calf issue. So they're just banged up. And so I believe if they were to advance with the current injuries that they have now, I think the Knicks would be able to beat them. But let's talk about it.
I'm here
Spurs
for it.
Thunder, Spurs Thunder Western Conference. Talk to me, bro. Give me your general observations of this series. It's currently tied 2-2, and the Spurs won a convincing game 4 yesterday as of this recording.
I will say, bro, this series has left nothing to be desired. Like this series has been everything I have wanted and imagined. Um, this is a matchup that like I think I mean us both, we kind of knew towards the end of the season, like, all right, if this is probably going to be the conference finals. So just kind of starting off with San Antonio, bro, they're phenomenal. I mean, when they're hitting on all cylinders, I think they're the best team in the league. I mean, just their starting five is they're just a bunch of young demons. Like they're insane. I think that, the injury with Fox, I think that Castle kind of stepped up in a way, the turnovers were a huge thing. I mean, 20 turnovers in 2 games, the most in NBA history. That was a lot. They were able to find it, obviously game one, with huge production from Wemby, putting on a masterclass. But outside of Wemby, I really do feel like they have a supporting cast that can win a chip. I do think they're going to win the series, but I think they're gonna have to play smart, man. I think that they're gonna limit the turnovers. I think last game was huge in being able to control the pace. I think Castle played a well-rounded game. My boy Devin Vassell has been hitting his threes at a high clip. Champagne's been rebounding his ass off and just playing gritty. Production from like Cornette off the bench, man, as a backup center has been everything. Who else? Who am I missing? Who am I missing? Harper? How can I forget about Harper? Like I was a little scared about his injury in game two. Um, Came back for game three, but it wasn't the greatest. And then, game four, I thought he kind of picked up at a place where, an injured Harper can obviously do his damage, but he's still kind of tentative a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm just proud of how they're playing. I mean, you would have thought I was a Spurs fan the way I'm talking about them, but OKC's going to show up. Simple and plain. With the guys that are out or hurt, they always have guys off the bench that can step up and perform. I mean, outside of like we know Shea's going to do his thing. He struggled a little bit lately, but I mean Caruso has been a huge headache. He's hitting everything it feels like.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
So let's
Jalen
talk about it, bro.
Williams.
Let's break it down a little bit. Let's break it down, bro. So
Let's do
let's
it.
break it down. So I agree with you, bro. This series has been as entertaining and has matched the hype, right? And
Hmm.
I think I'm so glad that these two particular teams made it to the Western Conference Finals, despite my Lakers not making it, because we're getting a treat. And for a lot of fans, they feel that this may be the finals. Right now, due to the Knicks' success in the other conference, and I do believe they're changing that opinion a little bit. I think some people are warming up to the idea that the Knicks have a chance.
Hmm.
But the way this series started with game one and game two, and just the subsequent games, this for a lot of people felt like it was the finals. Like whoever wins this series will determine the NBA champion. I happen to be one of those people if it's the Spurs, if the Spurs win this series. But we're 2-2. And so if I start with the Spurs, right, bro? To be honest, prior to last night's game four, I
Hmm.
was like, the Spurs are underachieving, right? And you said it, bro. The Thunder are going to give you a game. They're not going to just give you the title, right? Like they're
Right.
defending their championship. And as defending champions, you have to take that from them. No
Hmm.
matter who's out the lineup, right? Jalen Williams, AJ Mitchell tomorrow, they're very well coached. The Thunder execute offensively, they execute defensively, they play hard. Role players understand their role and they step up in big games. Where, like you said, Caruso hitting threes, where he was a 29% three-point shooter in the regular
Yeah. It's
season,
like,
right? And the Spurs game plan was to leave him open, and he's making them pay time and time again. What's my man Jared McCain traded from the
oh,
Sixers, balling to the point
yeah. I
where
forgot about him.
he's playing so well. I'm super impressed and actually shocked.
Yeah.
He's so aggressive. He shot 21 times in game three. He went 10 for 21. He shot the ball 21 times coming off the bench.
He's getting them up.
He's getting
He's
him up.
getting them
He's not
up.
scared, bro. And he had to play game three, driving to the basket, gave Wemby the body,
I
and
saw,
then
remember that.
then
Yeah.
laid the ball up. So you're gonna have to take it from the Thunder. And I think that's the one thing that the Spurs have to conquer. Them being so youthful and inexperienced, you got to understand that they're just not going to give you the game.
Facts.
So you guys are going to have to execute for 48 minutes every night, right? Turnovers. I think Fox being reintroduced into the series, I believe that was game two.
Yeah.
Fox
Yeah.
came back game two as the point guard, starting point guard for for the San Antonio Spurs, it takes a lot of pressure off of Stephon Castle's just off of his game, right? The
Hmm.
Thunders are known for turning guards over, right? Playing strong perimeter defense and really allowing their defense to feed their offense. So Fox coming back has been crucial because you add another ball handler, an experienced ball handler who's not going to be scared of the pressure, and he's knocking down some shots as well. All that to say this, we've really been witnessing a great series. And I think a few things about Wemby, right?
Hmm.
Game one, where does that rank for you, bro? First of all, as just as a general game, as an all-time classic, and as an individual performance by a player, like how do
I
you see that
mean,
game?
I'll be honest with you. There's only a couple games that stand out in my mind that were better than that. Um, Especially like with conference finals play. Like to me, that might have been the second greatest game that I've witnessed in an Eastern Conference final or a Western Conference final, excuse me, game. The only game I can say individually that I witnessed on TV would probably be like was that '06, '07 Eastern Conference Finals when Braun went off like for like 25 in the fourth. I mean, that's the only game I could say like that stood a chance to maybe compete with that. But we're talking about what do you have, 41 and 24, Wemby?
41 and 24, bro.
Yeah, I mean those are juggernaut numbers, man. Like I mean we were texting back and forth like during that game and we were just in awe of the shot making. Um just the sheer size difference between him and just the OKC defenders and him kind of just playing like he's playing on a Nerf hoop against like toddlers is what it looked like at times. The shot from like 30 plus.
Bro, same shot. Obviously, ESPN, NBA, they've pushed this narrative to the max. Basically, the same shot that Steph Curry shot against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe that was 2016 regular
Hmm.
season game. I
Hmm.
watched that game as it was happening as a fan watching TV,
Hmm.
and I remember where I was when I watched that game in college. I
Hmm.
will remember where I was when I watched game one, San Antonio Spurs versus the Thunder, Wemby
Facts.
going for 41-24 and hitting that three-pointer. I will remember my reaction at watching the game. It's one of those games where it was just it was amazing, double overtime. And I do believe this. Wemby is the best player in the NBA.
No doubt.
I
Yeah,
think
there's no
I
doubt.
think that is what this playoff run has proven. He is the best player in the NBA. And it's for reasons that we've already spoken of before, bro. But it's like his floor in terms of him having a bad game, most times is going to reflect offensively, right? He's not, he's still not where he needs to be consistently, right? As an offensive player. But his floor, he's going to give you elite rim protection, elite defense, right? Just discouraging guys from going to the basket. Uh, you see Hartenstein, if it wasn't his calling card to shoot those floaters, he would basically not be able to score. But because he's
Right.
a guy that can hit floaters, he's
Yeah.
throwing these floaters up to the roof, bro.
The heavens. It's
bro,
like
bro. And he hitting them. But it's like that's
just
what you have to do against an 8'5" wingspan, standing
yeah.
wings type of guy. Um, I say all this to say his floor defensively, he's elite, one of the greatest we've ever seen. And if he's having one of his offensive games where he's just everything's flowing from him and his outside shot is working, he's easily the best basketball player in the game we have today. Easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that game three, we saw him a little bit more tentative on the offensive side. Um, it was just because Hartenstein was grabbing, pulling, all that. But I feel like if he asserts himself and anchors himself down low and doesn't maybe get pushed out far and it kind of relies on his long range ability to shoot, like this brother could average, I'm gonna say between 30 to 38, once he gets honed his offensive game and gets a little bit more stronger, there's nobody on earth that will be able to even stop him down there. I mean, the only way they can stop him now is because they can maybe outstrength him a little bit and push him out. But
But here's the thing: the
but
Thunder are making Wimby better.
True, they are.
By giving him this experience, being super physical, throwing him
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
this is only going to serve to be the experience he needs to, understand where he can get better.
yeah.
He's similar, and we have one last minute before we'll come back to. He's
Hmm.
similar to Mobley in the sense that they don't have go-to moves. It's just that Wemby is much more skilled and has
Right.
much more freakish athletic ability that
Hmm.
even at this juncture, he's the best player in the NBA without a go-to move. I'm seeing a
Right.
lot of hoop fans on Twitter talking about he needs to get in the lab with LaMarcus Aldridge because LaMarcus Aldridge will be able to give him that go-to mid-post or on the
Ew.
block fadeaway
Ew.
turnaround jumper. If he got that, once he gets that, bro, if he gets that right, the turnaround jumper,
Hmm.
mid-post work from LaMarcus Aldridge, to the point where if he gets it early enough in his career to where it's not his only move, but becomes a last resort move that he knows he can get to at all times,
Hmm.
Wimby's already the best player in the game to me already. But if he gets that, he truly becomes unstoppable on offense, and we won't see the inconsistency that we see in his offense currently.
I mean, bro, that's a great point because like it just speaks to where he's at right now. He's already the best player, so if he gets a consistent turnaround move like working with LA, it's like where this puts him in a completely different stratosphere. Like we can't even begin to, I feel like, put him in a category in terms of like, oh, he plays like this player. It's just like he's taking bits and pieces now of all these different grades. Um, I don't know if I mentioned this before, a couple minutes ago, but I don't want him like doing too much Hakeem work. And this is just like for selfish reasons. I want to see him healthy, sustain his career. So I feel like being 7'6", 7'7", however tall he is, I want him to be and maybe it is his natural movement to be able to move like that. He can retain Hakeem's teachings and all that. I just don't even want to risk him doing all those, Hakeem shimmies and dream shakes and all that. So I feel like the more practical he can be at 7'6", 7'7", that's why it makes so much sense when you said to work with LA, to get that bump, turnaround, fade over whatever shoulder it is. Selfishly, I want that for him too, and I feel like it just makes more sense.
I,
Like
I agree. I think, but we also got to also understand this too, bro. Hakeem had those fadeaways as well, right?
he
So
did, he did, he did.
some of getting Hakeem's game, obviously, it's going to be big as far as the footwork, right? The reverse pivots, forward pivots, shimmies, different things of that sort. But it's also turnaround jumpers in that as well. Um, I think the biggest thing we spoke on it when we spoke about Evan Mobley is intent, right? When you have a game, when you're a hooper and you have game, it's one thing to have skills, but to have a game means you play with intent, you play with
Hmm.
purpose. So
Hmm.
when Wemby catches the basketball, he's so multifaceted and versatile that what he needs to improve upon is his intent. What am I intending to do this possession, right? Outside of just having an answer for everything and not knowing which to choose. So him working with the LA is going to be important as far as getting a go-to move, go-to turnaround that's unblockable. You're already 7'5" with a 7.5 foot, 8 foot wingspan. So it's going to be the unblockable shot once you get that, and it becomes an automatic jump shot for you.
Hmm.
Um, Again, game four, Victor Wembanyama, 33 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Just insanity, to end that first half, hits a half court jump shot. It's just like,
We didn't talk about that.
my goodness, bro. It's
I
just
got up out of
like,
my seat, bro. I jumped up from the couch when I saw that, and I'm like, what am I witnessing right now?
bro, we have never seen anyone like this in our lifetime and in most people's lifetimes of watching the NBA basketball, the type of talent that he is. But he's not the only reason. He's going to be the main reason that the Spurs win a championship this year, in my opinion. But he's not the only reason that they're in the position that they're in. We touched on it. Dylan Harper, rookie guard, playing with the experience. It almost seems as a like a veteran, right?
Hmm.
He's very skilled. Reminds me of Kyrie at the rim because he really can't
He
shoot the ball too
does.
many times. He's not a great shooter, but he's hitting shots. He's not a great shooter, but when he gets to the rim, he has so many different finishes and he's comfortable, right?
He plays so much bigger than what he is too. Like I know he's legit 6'5", 6'6", but sometimes he'll make moves and he'll body guys where I'm like, oh, I didn't realize he had that strength. Or he looked like he got up to the rim super like agile and easy, like almost like he's 6'8", you know what I mean? And a sneaky athlete.
Sneaky athlete, and then and this person, Stephon Castle, is nothing sneaky about his athleticism at all.
Nothing.
He's the next Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose, John Morant. That dunk he had game two, that is one of the best posters we've seen in a very long time. That man went to the lane and boomed that joint on Hardenstein.
Yeah, bro.
Like it was bad.
It
Like,
was
you know.
nasty. Full extension, just nothing he could do. He couldn't even block that, bro.
Bro, he ricocheted off him. It was body to body. It was body to
Yeah.
body. So they have a super talented roster. They're still under the guidance of Popovich. I like their young coach, Mitch Johnson.
hmm
So I do think the San Antonio Spurs will win the championship. Speaking more onto the Thunder side, how do you feel about SGA's performance in this series and Chet's performance in this series?
So I'm glad you brought this up, dude, because it's been especially important for me to voice my opinions just on all media outlets, in person, whatever, whoever wants to have the conversation about it. Um, I think, Shea he's not having an incredible playoff run. I think that's fair to say. I think anybody would really agree. Um, I think he's doing enough, obviously, to get victories, but it's more of a huge team effort in total. Um, and then with Chet, he's really not performing at all. He there's
This series,
little
this series.
yeah, this series there's little glimpses, of in this series where I'm like, okay, he might get back on track here. He gets a nice block, gets a couple of nice dunks. Um, I haven't really seen him stretching the floor a whole lot, getting comfortable shooting the ball this series, but what I want to speak on is the foul baiting, bro. That has been something that's been especially important, like I said, for me to talk about. I just think, and this is obviously isn't something new. It's just, on a whole nother platform now with, San Antonio getting better. It's like now it's like full force on the end of OKC foul baiting. And I just feel like they are, you know, especially with Shea. It's exploiting a gray area on the offensive side, and it's become tasking to defenders. Not because like he's unguardable. I mean, I think he's damn near unguardable, but that's not the case. I just think it's the over the top acting on SGA's part that what sells these, and part of it's probably the ref's fault, for calling it and falling for it all the time. But I look back on some of these clips and in real time, I'm just like, I get you have to give supplemental space to the shooter, but a lot of times, man, he's just kicking his legs out, or he's kind of falling on the foot of the defender, or he's just like throwing himself, and it gets hard to watch. I mean, it's to me, it's sometimes unwatchable. And like I said, this isn't anything new. It's been the past 2.5, 3 years, maybe. So that's a big thing. And again, he's not the only culprit. A lot of guys on OKC do it. Um, but it's just been a problem to me. So,
No, I understand, bro. I'll be honest. As a viewer of these games, I'm not. It is happening because obviously this wouldn't be a big conversation if the foul baiting wasn't occurring, right? It
mhm,
particularly on the a lot of fans are lamenting that the Thunder are allowed to play with a certain level of physicality, and then on the other end, teams aren't allowed to match that physicality themselves defensively, right? So a lot of fans are upset about that. Obviously, they're upset as you just touched on with SGA's ability to garner fouls with his offensive. Well,
mhm,
first of all, we're in a time now where you can essentially push off,
yeah,
right? So a lot and a big portion, the biggest portion of Shea's offense is his mid-range jumper in which
mhm,
he gains separation by pushing off, right? And sometimes it's okay, it's legal, and then sometimes he's extending that arm, right? But they're not calling it. So
at all, yeah,
so I think and he's going to put himself in a lot more positions to get that landing area foul because he shoots over the top of guys via mid range, right?
mhm,
So he pushes off, right? No foul there. He rises up for the jump shot. Defenders have to close out because they know he's lethal from there. And then a lot of
mhm,
times they end up in the vicinity where the ref's going to call the landing area foul. I'll say this. As a viewer, me personally, I'm probably in the minority. I'm not, I'm not, it doesn't strike me like it doesn't I'm not moved by it in
Hmm.
any way, right? I don't really care as much as a fan watching the games, right? And I think I don't believe that Shea is like they're making Shea to be out like it's really, really bad. And to me, I don't spot his foul baiting as well as I may have spotted James Harden's when he was having his heyday in Houston.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I'm not, or even when KD was kind of doing those sweep throughs and getting like I'm not. It's just not as visually noticeable to me.
Mm.
So I don't know. Like, I'm not. I'm not. And I'm gonna be honest with you. This is a conversation that's never going to end because
It's not. Yeah.
Shea's not going to stop playing this way. And I felt like he had times during his playoff run where I believe it wasn't against the Lakers. It was the first round against the Suns. He had like that 40, it was like either 35, 40 point game. He hit like every shot. And at
Hmm.
the end of the game, he exclaimed, I don't need him because he didn't really get a lot of foul calls that night. He was
Hmm.
basically saying, I don't need them to score.
That's what I mean. I don't think he needs him. Like I've seen enough of Shea's game where like he goes off for 35, 40, and it's very, limited foul calls. So that's where, and I remember like going back to just like last year's series in Denver. Like I don't recall, I remember getting his foul calls, but I don't remember it being such high volume.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. Like it's not only on that side, it's also like Hartenstein with the fouling. I think Caruso does a good job of like not fouling.
Okay.
I think he does foul. They don't call it, but I think he does a great job of just being a stand-up defender.
Lou Dort,
Like
we don't even have to necessarily speak about Lou Dort.
I hate him. Can't
Like
stand
he's
Lou Dort. I hope you hear that, Lou
yo,
Dort.
if you
Like
have an injury, the last game you want to play is against Lou Dort, bro.
yeah,
Because shoot, it was by accident, but he did affect Fox's ankle. I believe it was game 2 or 3 where I think it was
yeah.
3 where he got like involved with Fox's ankle in some capacity. Um, so overall, the series has been delightful. 2-2. We got game 5 coming up. I think that's a immense game for the series. Whoever wins that game normally wins the series, and history shows us. I believe the Spurs
Hmm.
will win the game. I believe they will win the series, and I believe if we get a Spurs Knicks championship, I believe they will win the finals and win the championship. And I think Wemby will be one of the few stars, Tim Duncan, Magic Johnson, who did not have to wait, Dwayne Wade, who did
Hmm.
not have to wait to taste the glory. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
What about you? What's your work? Give me a prediction. Game 5 prediction, series prediction, finals prediction.
Game 5, I got San Antonio. I think they're in a great space right now, just like moving forward with momentum. It's crazy you mentioned like, him and the likeness of like Tim Duncan because like 27 years ago, this is when Tim got his first chip against New York. So it's like
History
it's just cool, man,
repeats.
how it's repeating itself. Yeah. So I'm hoping that's the case. I'm just rooting for Wemby, bro. I think that he's just a solid guy off the court. Like just aside from basketball, I think he's a good human being. And San Antonio's rocking, bro. Like it's just good vibes over there, mixed with like great skill, great coaching staff. I love how on both sides, like New York and San Antonio, they have their ex-players rooting in the stands, like just rallying for their new guys. So I think it's really cool. It's like, like you said, history repeats itself. So, um, what other questions you have? I forgot. I went on a little tangent
Series
there.
prediction.
I think it's going to be 4-2, 4-2 San
Spurs.
Antonio. And
Who's
then I think, yeah, Spurs. I think that, it's probably going to be probably 4-2 finals if they match up. If they
Spurs
get to the
winning the
finals,
championship?
like I'm predicting. Yeah, yep.
We both got the Spurs. Yeah, I got the Spurs winning it all. And I
Yeah.
think some of that, as well as the Spurs have been playing, if the Thunder were healthy, I would be a little bit more hesitant to say that because,
Yeah.
again, they were up 2-1. They went up 2-1 prior to last night's game. They went up 2-1 and they beat Spurs game 3, like underhanded. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they took that game. So if they were more healthy, I'd be a lot more hesitant. But because of their health mixed with Spurs lack of fear against them, I think they will win the series. Um, yeah, bro, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be exciting. And the last thing I'll say about Wemby, I want Wemby to win. I'm rooting for Wemby to win a championship because at 7'5" we know the story of Yao Ming, right? We know the story of Ralph
Hmm.
Sampson, someone who they've compared Wemby to back in the day. Super tall individuals who, Bill Walton, super tall individuals who had their career cut short because they're so big, right?
Right.
Now, Wemby does everything in his power, and he's done everything his entire career to put his body in a position to handle the grind of NBA basketball, right? At his
Hmm.
size. But I still just have a little bit of a dang, we just don't know how this will go long term. So I want him to taste success, get the championships as quickly as possible because we just don't know how his career will turn up
Thanks.
down the line. Look at I didn't even mention the biggest culprit that we have in the league today, Joel Embiid. We're looking at his career be immensely affected by injuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, bro.
Um,
It's a solid point, man. That's a solid point.
Yes. So, anything else, bro? We can listen next episode. We can get to the All NBA teams. You know what I
Let's do it.
mean? Let's let it marinate. See how we feel about it for the week. Anything else you would like to speak on before we get out of here?
Nah, man, that's it. That's everything, man. I think we covered a lot. Hoop fans, we're back. Sorry for the little
We always back,
hiatus,
bro. We ain't. We
but
always coming back. That's what's up, man. That's what's up, man. Well, another episode, episode 12, Hoop fans. I'm K Rose.
yes, sir. Your boy Matt.
Yes, sir. We out.